This is Sid Okaiba, and thanks for listening to It's Recording Time Media, the most pathetic show you could listen to. You really should be listening to something I do, like KaibaCorp.com.
No, we're not. We're not going to wait for Alan.
Not gonna wait for Alan?
No. Dan Severn is in the house.
Yeah.
And let's just, if you can't hear me, if you want to move on up, ask questions or whatever, because I didn't even know I was doing this here today. So if you don't mind, I'm going to sit my butt down because I've been standing most of the day. But if you have questions, ask away. Sorry, I just took over for you.
No, it's okay. Probably do a better job than I can.
I can at least answer the questions.
That's all we want, is just answer the Q&A. We just had Tommy Dreamer up here, now Dan Severn, I mean, multiple.
At first I thought we were supposed to, because they said Tommy Dreamer and Dan Severn together, I go, wow, this will be an interesting video.
Yeah.
Here's like going, I don't do barbed wire, I don't do explosives, I didn't really ever do ECW. So
Right.
it's,
Well, you were in you're in cage fighting, you're also in WWE, and you're still kind of active. Can I say that? Because I know.
No, you can say that, again, just give some of you folks a little bit of the timetables, because I've been competing for close to 50 years now. I started my amateur wrestling career in 7th grade, 1969. Okay, I started teaching sport wrestling in my freshman/sophomore year. I went to a few wrestling camps, clinics, and my coach was like, well, show us how to do some of these moves that you've learned. So I started teaching the sport of amateur wrestling in 1971. By my senior year in high school, I'm the #1 amateur wrestler at my weight class in the country. And this was at the 185-pound weight class. I had good academics going for myself so that I could go to any college in the United States. I did take all 6 of the recruiting trips, and I even had a congressional nomination so I could go to the Air Force Academy if I so choose to do that. I grew up, I'm one of 8 children to my parents. I was second oldest. There's 5 males, 3 females. Out of the males, I'm the second oldest, second smallest. Then they tier up from there. Now, one of the bragging points there is that all 5 males went to college on full athletic scholarships. Now, the 3 sisters, females, they went to college on almost full academic scholarships. So growing up, it was, well, it's better to have brains or bronze. And our counter was, well, bronze beats brains out. Touche. So again, it was great growing up in this type of an atmosphere because I grew up on a farm. So I was very regulated whether I liked it or not at a very young age. You like to eat, son? Well, sure I do, Dad. So do the animals. You like to drink, son? Yes, so do the animals. And it better be done every morning before you get ready to go to school. And you gotta walk a half mile up the dirt road to catch the school bus. And that was a pretty cold walk in the wintertime, especially like right now in Michigan. In Coldwater, it's about 1.5 foot of snow there right now. I wouldn't be walking around in an outfit like this today.
Right.
Matter of fact, today's probably the first time I've worn pants in quite some time. I didn't wear shorts most of the time because it's beautiful when I'm here, California, Arizona. I spent a lot of time in Arizona. I'm born and raised in Michigan, but I spent a decade of my life in Arizona. Between 5 years student athlete at Arizona State, I redshirted a year, so that's why I was able to get an additional year out of it. And then 5 years as a wrestling coach at Arizona State. Then I took a job at Michigan State. So Arizona State, Michigan Wrestling Club. Again, I've been teaching sport since '71. Then I said by 1996, 2 decades later, I'm the #1 cage fighter in the world. Well, my first profession was professional wrestling as of the '92 Olympics. I say it like that because anything prior to that, and I was approached into the '80s by a number of smaller independent professional wrestling companies, and they wanted me to turn pro then. Well, had I turned pro then, I would have lost my amateur wrestling status, and I could no longer represent the United States on various national teams, Pan-American teams, world teams, and my ultimate dream was I wanted to be on the Olympic team, win the gold medal. So But as of the 92 Olympics, a new rule came down that allowed athletes to be both amateur and professional simultaneously. And I jumped into professional wrestling because I had been approached by this organization. And the president of the Michigan Wrestling Club I was working for, I was the coach, he was the president, was a professional wrestler. His real name was Dennis Kasperwitz. His ring name was Denny Cass. And so when our club duties would be done, I would stick around for another 15, 20 minutes, and I would ask him about professional wrestling. And then he actually painted a very dark and dreary picture about professional wrestling, because even now, I do that same thing to most guys that want to pursue professional wrestling. I go, have you ever seen the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke? And when they say no, I go, I said, well, then as part of your homework, I want you to go watch this movie. Because it is a very dark movie when you take a look at it. I go, so, but you better look at that because that is the reality of most professional wrestlers. There isn't any real money on the independent scene. There's only one company that you can make any kind of real money at, and that's for the WWE with Vince McMahon. But out of the, again, I'm just using examples, but out of the, say, 100 athletes that he has underneath contract, only about 5 of them are making any real money. The rest of them should actually have a full-time job working something else, and hopefully that job has health benefits on top of that, because in professional wrestling, there isn't health benefits. So if you get hurt, you're screwed. So I know I'm kind of flat on that yet, but just give you some timetables. But then, like I said, by 1996, #1 cage fighter in the world, and then basically my most recent match, I should say, turned out to be my last match, was in 2016, was my last scheduled fight. So at 58 years of age. I'm 60 years of age, I don't look like a 6-year-old cat, I don't move like a 6-year-old cat, and I'm lifetime chemical free. You find that in the sport of amateur wrestling, professional wrestling, mixed martial arts. I'm a very unique person in a lot of different ways. I haven't been around it all my life. Into high school, be exposed to LSD, marijuana, things of nature. I've always been known as my brother's keepers. It's kind of like my buddies, oh yeah, they got shit-faced, and I'd have to drag them, throw them in my vehicle, bring them back to my parents' house, give them a shower, throw some food in them, sober them up a little bit, because if I brought them back to their home, and their father would see them, they would have got their ass beaten. Which is something that, I'm not very politically correct. I think there's a lot of young men nowadays, they actually need to have their ass beaten. Because people are not very kind nowadays, and they will say anything and anything with the anomaly that they can do behind a keyboard. And they can attack people, stuff like this. And I will never engage those things. I go, you can say whatever you want. I go, I'd like to see you stand on the other side of the cage and say those words just before we're about to...
of you, but, and this is a compliment, but you were just a guy. You
Right.
didn't have like a gimmick, you didn't have, but that's how, is that, would you say, is that your persona that you just do as a wrestler, or is that who you, or your friends would tell you, no, that's
Dan Severn. I mean, unless people engage me, I come to this, I know that I was going to come here and I was going to be part of this panel. And I can't just sit up here and be quiet. You guys are not going to ever learn anything about me. Some stuff you may have heard about before, but I'm here to either set records straight or to give you right from the horse's mouth type of information. I've had a very unique in a lot of different ways, but I'm a perfect blend of both my parents. My father was a very quiet man. Getting him to speak in front of people, oh, I hated it. I did not want to do that whatsoever. So even in my senior year of high school, I took a speech class to help get me a little bit over this discomfort of getting up in front of and speaking in front of people. And even in my freshman year at Arizona State University, I was having one of these controversial Cinderella type of years that no matter what I did, I was doing something phenomenal. I set national records. I set, as a true freshman, I went 34-0. I had 24 pins. I set NCAA records. I pinned the returning NCAA champion. I pinned the returning 1976 Olympic champion. I was just on fire, and then basically 2 weeks before the conference tournament, I injured my knee for the first time. And again, this is part of what I bring up in different types of, I was talking to people that at that point in time, I had all of my eggs in one basket. nothing but my wrestling ability. So here I am at 18 years of age, and I'm being told by an orthopedic surgeon, you will never wrestle again. You will probably never ever walk right again because of what you did to your knee. Well, obviously, I defied the odds because I came back with quite a vengeance. Now, I've been through 3 orthopedic surgeons so far. And the last one, he actually has both of my knee x-rays up on his wall. They're autographed, dated autographed, and he says, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. He says, you got bone chips, bone spurs, arthritis, advanced arthritis, and he shows us one black dot, and he goes, I don't even know what the hell that dot means. And you don't have either one of your anterior cruciate ligaments. That's the most important ligament to have, and that keeps stabilization of your knees. And I'm like, but look at me, Doc, I'm moving and I'm grooving. I'm just showing him I'm moving all around. He goes, the only thing I can think of is, he goes, is that your musculature is holding you together. One day, when your muscles atrophied enough, I go, hold it right there, Doc. So you mean my curse is, I have to work out for the rest of my life? I will take that curse. Because Father Time is going to win out. He's undefeated. But to me, I look at it this way. How long did you stay in the games? How much fun did you have along the way? I've already lived a life of half a dozen men. I expect to live a life of another half a dozen before I call it quits.
Any questions while we still have going? Any questions, guys? If you have questions, you can your question, keep going. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. Last night was a big event with ESPN and UFC.
Yes.
Is that a good relationship? I mean, there's nothing but
Between the two of them?
between the two of them. There's nothing but great stuff.
Well,
right?
to me, well, again, the question again, and a lot of people may not be out here, but you know, the UFC now has this relationship with ESPN, and the question was, is that a good thing or not? And to me, it is a good thing because it continues to legitimize the sport. The fact that it's on ESPN here now, so it continues to legitimize sport that much more. It just gives, it's just another vehicle now for exposure. You know, anymore it's hard. You know, what social media outlet, what media outlet are people watching things on anymore? Because there's so many things. I mean, YouTube has taken over things left and right. YouTube channels, podcasts, things of this nature. It's hard to see or to find out or to listen to somebody or to watch them. You know, that cell phone. I always tell people, the cell phone did not exist when I was in college. Well, it existed, but it wasn't very cool.
Right.
It was the size of a walkie-talkie, you know. And there was a car phone, but it was actually physically attached to your car. You couldn't carry that around there either. So again, it's just, I was 2 years ahead of the internet era, because when I left Arizona State, I was working on a master's program there as well. So there's Dan Severn, what that has is bachelor degree, and then there was Dan Severn that was working on his master's degree, and I was, you know, 3/4 of the way through. But when I left Arizona State to take a job at Michigan State, that's where my master's degree died on the vine, because I'm not going to, at my cost, fly back to Arizona State, stay in an apartment to finish out my program. It would have been another, you know, basically 2 years. So I'm a big advocate still of education, and I still tell people, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Give yourself options, and everyone's got options. They just may not realize it at times.
You still keep a connection with some of the guys from, you know, your time at the WWE. And
Yes.
Who are those? Some of those.
Well, people like Al Snow, for example. I mean, Al Snow is one of the guys that Denny Cass brought me down to Lime, Ohio, Body Slammers Gym, and that's the first time I met Al. And at first, Al didn't even know how to take me, and then after a while, you realize I had a good sense of humor, because, again, I scare a lot of people because I'm quiet. And for most of that makes a lot of people uneasy, because I sit back and I observe people, because there's good and bad everywhere. People just don't realize it, and I'm just watching to see, because, you know, when I first went to the WWF, for example, WWE now, when I first went to the WWF, for the first few weeks, every time that I was meeting one of the other wrestlers, you know, when I saw them meeting each other, they were referring to each other by first name or by their stage name. They'd be like, hey Rock, hey Steve, hey Stone Cold, hey this, that, you know, hey Taker. I mean, they were referring to each other, again, by either first name or by their ring name or persona. But every time that they saw me, it was like, oh, and how are you today? Mr. Severn, Mr. Severn, Mr. Severn. And I kept going, well, maybe it's just a rib, I just let it go, it didn't bother me at all. And then after a few weeks of this, I have to have one of them by himself, and he said the same thing. I go, and I just said, I question, I go, why is it that you guys refer to each other by ring name or first name, but every time you see me, it's always Mr. Severn. They're like, dude, you don't know? We go, you scare us. He says, we're afraid that if we accidentally cater you a little bit in a match or something like this, that you're gonna go ballistic. And he goes, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. And so, I mean, I go, but I'm here for the same reason you guys are here. I just want to have a nice little career in professional wrestling. The number one rule of professional wrestling is you take care of me, I take care of you. And yet, I have been hurt far worse in my professional wrestling career than I have been in my entire cage fighting career. And that should be just the opposite. But there's a lot of athletes, and even the current roster of WWE wrestlers, they don't practice that often. They do match after match, but doing a match is not practicing. You need to go back. If I owned that company right now, it would be, to me, a minimum of twice a month. You better have your butt in that ring and going over the basic fundamentals for a couple hours. Because you see guys get hurt all the time. And you know, it's when Owen Hart fell from the rafters, breaks a neck, kills himself, there were people laughing in the audience waiting for him to jump up and go, ta-da! There was no ta-da. But then again, professional wrestling fans tend to be a little bit jaded when they see things. So, again, I know I'm going off a little bit, a couple little tangents. Question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you just raised your hand just to...
No, I'm sorry I interrupted the...
No, that's quite all right. I'm just flapping my
You
ear.
guys tag up, and then, I know you guys fought each other, and then, were you and Ken Shamrock, I know you guys came from UFC.
Yeah.
Did you guys, did one persuade one, did you persuade him, or did he persuade you to come to WWE?
No, well, again, I don't know how many people heard the question, but it was like asking about the WWF, and Ken Shamrock and I both being working for the same company. Now, Ken Shamrock went to work for that company almost 1 year before I did. Now, we were both being contacted at the same time, but Vince McMahon never knew how old I was. I didn't tell anybody because I know it would have been held against me. And so basically, when they're contacted, both of us, Ken just basically agreed to X amount of dollars, I'm all yours. I didn't, because I knew I'm being offered only a 2-year deal. I'm not about to give you 2 years of my life and then have to stop, and then you guys let me go, and now I have to try and re-engage whatever else I was doing before. So I simply said, I will agree to a contract. I will agree to, I did not work 187 dates. The average wrestler back then worked 187 dates. I worked 60. And on those 60 dates, I had to know ahead of time where I'm headed to and stuff like this, so that in the same 24 hours that these guys worked one match, I was doing 3 and 4 things. I would contact the travel. I'd fly in earlier. I'd go do I'd either go do a law enforcement seminar, I'd go do something with maybe a high school wrestling team, and then I'd go work my job for the WWF, and then after that was done, I'd go to a sports bar and do an appearance here, a Q&A session there. So I pulled down 3, 4, and 5 paychecks in the same 24 hours. But I kept looking at, am I making $5 an hour, or am I making $500 an hour? I know what I'd rather be doing, because my time from my family was already gone. And that's the hardest part is, a lot of people, they may be envious of your lifestyle, the fact that you travel. I've been to every state in the United States. I've done something in every state in the United States. But there's a price to be paid. And that price is the fact that, what are you willing to sacrifice? Sacrifice family time. I've missed more birthdays, more anniversaries, and these are things I'll never be back. I used to always tell my kids, I have 5 children. Most people don't know that, okay? But it's because most of my interviews, I will let you talk about or to Dan Severn. But my private life, no. And when people start to ask me about the private life, I said, we will not be talking about my private life. But I get that look about me and I go, ooh, okay, well, we're not going to go there.
I'll stay away from
Yeah,
that.
but it's like going, I did that to protect my kids. My children growing up, all they knew was that Daddy's going to be gone this weekend working. They did not know. They found out from their friends. They're being at their friend's house, and all of a sudden they put in the UFC game, or they put in a professional wrestling game. And then my son would be like, that's my dad. You know, at school, my son's in 3rd grade. One of his buddies brings in a professional wrestling magazine, and I'm flipping through with it, and my son goes, "That's my dad." And the teacher was right there, and the teacher's like going, "Sure, Michael, that's your father." Well, show and tell was 2 weeks later, and guess what my son brought in for show and tell? Me. And because the teacher told me, I go, "Well, did the last name, give a little insight there, stuff like that?" And I just told him, I protect my kids. I mean, sometimes it's better to be naive to a situation than to know too much about the situation. Questions?
Any more questions? We got a few more minutes left until Dan's gonna go back upstairs. So if you don't get a chance to talk to him out loud, you can meet him in person at his booth. And I see you have all your titles there, which is really cool. If you want to
I travel with 4 belts.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the breaking points for me is, I'll say that for the utopia of my professional wrestling career is the fact that I'm at Madison Square Garden and I'm involved with a match, between Ken and with Owen Hart, a Lions Den match, but I'm the special guest. But I kept thinking, well, at least I'm here at Madison Square Garden. I'm part of I'm the #1 company in the world. So it's like I'll say, those are the kudos parts of it. The bad part is that the Vince McMahon and this creative team did not know how to utilize me. I met Bill Goldberg a number of years after I had left the WWF. And I was still doing professional for a lot of other company stuff like that. I mean, I worked, for quite a few years just for the NWA, on and off here and there. And so I'm out in Los Angeles with this business meeting, and Bill Goldberg just had to be one of the guests of one of the other guys. So we're sitting there, we're getting to know each other, talking stuff like this. But halfway through the conversation, he just leans across the table, nudges me on the shoulder, and goes, "Thank you." I go, "For what?" He says, "Dude," he says, "I was you. I watched you go by the championship." He goes, "I watched you do that. Those crazy eyes, looking stuff like this, raising your arms up and things of nature." He goes, "I emulated you." And it turns out, when he was doing his spear, the spear is basically an amateur wrestling known as a double leg takedown. It turns out it was one of my buddies that even taught him how to do the double leg takedown, stuff like that. So it's kind of funny how our lives had intermixed with each other, and yet, it was a real great honor for him to say something like that. And to me, it's like, I've interesting career in the fact that I've done all these different things, and I'm still not done yet. I mean, I still try to do a lot of motivational speaking. I still do a lot of seminars, still work with law enforcement practitioners, martial, martial, military. And I still do professional wrestling stuff, but a lot of old school things. I like to try to show them more mat wrestling, things of that nature, because most wrestlers don't know how to show mat wrestling to save their life. They don't even know how to wrestle really to begin with, but they can do a lot of high spots, and they can do a lot of, flex, cut some good promos. I was not ever good at blah, 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 Any more last minute questions?
We'll get you in the back, Rick.
This gentleman back here.
What I'd like to hear from you, what you feel your greatest achievement in the cage was, or what your greatest fight was in mixed martial arts.
Okay, as a mixed martial artist, probably the greatest moment, I won't say a fight, but the greatest moment or event for me had to be the ultimate. Now, it's the smallest belt that I have, but it's the belt that I cherish the most. Out of a 2-hour pay-per-view, I was inside that octagon cage just over 1 hour. Now you think about being in a cage for 1 hour between your 3 opponents, and this was back in the no hold barred era. So the only 2 rules were no biting, no eye gouging. Anything else, good to go at that point in time. So out of a 2-hour pay-per-view, I was inside the octagon cage just over 1 hour, and this was in Denver, Colorado, mile-high elevation. So my cardiovascular, during my career, I've done 2 training camps. In a 20-year career, I did 2 training camps. Once for 32 days for UFC number 5, and 35 days for the Ultimate. The rest of the time, I just showed up. But my greatest skill set I have is my mind. I just knew as an amateur wrestler, sometimes you had to will yourself to break other people. You had to go beyond your physical parameters and to will yourself to go into a whole new dimension. Most people, I hear a lot of coaches that they'll say, "I want you to give me 110%. I want you to give me 150%. I really want to take these coaches off the side and say, "Coach, you really don't understand math at all now, do you? I said, there is only 100%. And if you exceed those limits, and most people will never flirt with 80, 100% is the max you can do, and then there's the 101, when literally you go into a whole different world. I've only experienced that 101 aspect a few times in my life, and we're literally everything slows down, and I can see everything that you're doing, and it's like I'm out of the way here, I'm out of the way here, and I'm just doing whatever I want to do to this person, and they just don't know what's about to hit them in the process. But I've only seen that a handful of times in my career, and I said, I'm in a very unique group of how many cage fights I've been involved. Professionals matches, I know I've got several hundreds of those, but in my amateur wrestling career alone, I probably have somewhere between 3,500 to 5,000 of those. So if you start adding up the math, I mean, even, as a high school junior, in order to draw more attention to myself, I wrestled at my age group, which is 18 years or younger, known as the junior age group, 3 weight classes. You can't do that nowadays, 198 to 220 heavyweight. And then I also wrestled in the open weight class, which is anything over 18 years of age. So now I'm going up against college coaches, national wrestlers, or past Olympic wrestlers, things of that nature. So one day, and I'm on 3 wrestling mats inside of this gymnasium. I might be wrestling on mat number 1, I might be in the hole on mat number 2, and on deck on mat number 3. And the moment that they say, Dan Severn, report to this mat, they start a stopwatch. You got 5 minutes. If you're not there on that mat in 5 minutes, you're disqualified. So one day, 2 age groups, 6 weight classes, 17 matches later, I walked out of the gymnasium with 6 gold medals. And the college coaches, they were calling me.
Yeah. Well, you can see 10 for Dan Severn. You can see him. He's going to be up on the fan deck, and the fan deck and the table up there. You can go ahead and talk to him. We're going to start the costume contest. It's going to be the last thing of the day. Dan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No, you guys are welcome. Like I said, it's I don't know it should be. Yeah, I really would have had a few more questions, but obviously I've overcome my fear of talking now.
You're doing a great job.
All right.
Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate it.